Wildfires also cause the emission of a lot of carbon dioxide gas to the atmosphere, causing air pollution. So any water that is drinking will become incapable of drinking. So that is nothing but water pollution. Slash and burn agriculture was actually banned in Punjab, Haryana regions and all that, because the government thought that was also one of the reasons for the pollution in Delhi. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to today's session on Environmental Studies for second semester B.Ca. I am Dr. Divya, Environmental Studies faculty, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. So in today's session, let us study with Unit 5, that is Environmental Pollution. So in this session, let us concentrate on the various environmental pollutions, that is the causes, effects and how to control these environmental pollution. So in today's session, let us especially learn about the air and the water pollution, and in the next coming session, we'll learn about the other three pollutions that are there. So talking about environmental pollution. So what is environmental pollution? So environmental pollution is defined as the contamination of the physical as well as biological components of the earth or the atmosphere system to such an extent that the normal environmental processes are hindered or it is interrupted or it is adversely affected. So any change that is brought about or any adverse effect that brings about a change in the environment, be it the water, air, soil, the earth on the whole, etc. So any change, be it physical change or biological change that occurs because of human intervention or because of natural calamities also, it is nothing but environmental pollution. So talking about the different environmental pollution. So these environmental pollutions or the types of environmental pollution has been specifically mentioned in your syllabus. So that is why I have retained these environmental pollution. So that is, we learn about air pollution in this unit, about water pollution, soil pollution, chemical pollution and noise pollution. So in today's session, we'll mainly concentrate on air pollution and water pollution, whereas in the next session, we'll continue with soil pollution, chemical pollution and noise pollution. So let's study what air pollution is, what water pollution is, what are the causes for these pollutions, what are the effects for these pollutions and how to control these pollutions. So talking about the air pollution. So what is air pollution? So air pollution, again here specifically talking about air pollution, it is the contamination of the air due to the presence of substances. So when I say substances here, we can use the word particulate for this. Particulates, or we can use because of the presence of pollutants. That word can also be used because of the presence of pollutants. So presence of substances or pollutants in the atmosphere. So what are pollutants? Any substance or material that is capable of causing pollution are pollutants. So the presence of substances or pollutants in the atmosphere that are harmful to the health of humans and also to other living organisms sharing this planet, or it can cause damage to the climate or to the materials. Materials means we all know what happens because of air pollution, right? The best example that we can take of is Taj Mahal. How the color of Taj Mahal is deteriorating because of the air pollution. So therefore, it can affect materials as well. So overall, air pollution is the contamination of air due to the presence of substances in the atmosphere that are harmful to the health of human beings and other living organisms, or that can cause damage to the climate and also to the materials. So next, talking about the causes of air pollution. So some of the causes I have just put in the form of points here, which I'll be explaining one by one. So the first cause is the burning of fossil fuels. So what are fossil fuels? All the petroleum products that are there come under the fossil fuels. So burning of these fossil fuels, be it kerosene, the petroleum products and all that, that is the petrol, diesel and all that, coal for example. So all these actually release a lot of harmful gaseous material into the atmosphere, which deteriorates the atmosphere or the air, and therefore the burning of fossil fuel is one of the main reasons for air pollution, because we know that nowadays the smoke coming out of the industries and from the vehicles are the leading cause of air pollution in any metropolitan city and overall in this world. And next is because of industrial emission. So industrial emission means, so even for industrial emission also there are some standards that are set by the government. So if they say that you have to purify the smoke before it is let out into the atmosphere, or there will be a particular height that is given to the chimneys. So you all have seen big chimneys and all that in the factories, right? So those chimneys will have a specific height. So it should be built to that height itself, not lower than that. But what usually industries do, in order to save money, they'll actually not follow those standards, which can lead to the circulation of the toxic air in the atmosphere itself, that is almost near the air. So therefore causing a lot of problems to the human beings and the animals. So therefore industrial emission is also one of the causes for air pollution. Next, the use of chemical and synthetic products. So talking about the use of chemical and synthetic products. So what are these chemical and synthetic products? Like we have the chlorofluorocarbons that you have heard of, right? Nowadays, chlorofluorocarbons used to be used in refrigerators on a larger extent, because that is one such compound that helps in the cooling of the refrigerator. But nowadays, people manufacturing refrigerator, they claim that chlorofluorocarbons are not being used nowadays, but I don't know to what extent, but chlorofluorocarbons are used in refrigerators, and these actually they escape into the atmosphere and they can cause pollution. So this is one of the example for the chemicals. Or a simple example I can give you is of the sprays, the deodorants that we use, the paints that we use, all these contain some volatile compounds. So what are volatile compounds? Which are capable of evaporating and mixing with the atmosphere. So therefore these chemical and synthetic products cause air pollution also to some extent. Next is because of wildfires. So wildfires can be natural and also especially during summer, and it can be also because of the negligence by the human beings. So these wildfires also cause the emission of a lot of carbon dioxide gas to the atmosphere, causing air pollution. Next is because of microbial decaying process. Say for example, it was said that cow is one of the animal that is responsible for the increase in the greenhouse gases. Why? Because cow dung actually contains a lot of methane. So when microbes act on these cow dung for decaying the cow dung, a lot of methane gets escaped into the atmosphere, therefore causing a greenhouse effect. So that is how microbial decaying process also causes air pollution. Next is transportation. So the vehicle, so when petroleum products are burnt, a lot of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons and all that gets escaped into the atmosphere, which causes pollution. So therefore transportation or the emissions by the vehicle are also one of the leading causes for air pollution. Next is open burning of garbage waste. We all know about landfills, right? So every day whatever waste is collected by the municipality people, it will be taken to a garbage ground, wherein to some extent sorting will be done. That is, the wet waste will be sorted so that it can be used as a manure. The dry waste will be sorted so that it can be recycled. And what about the remaining waste which nothing can be done to it? So that will be left to burn in the dumping ground. So that burning will release a lot of chemicals to the atmosphere, therefore causing air pollution. Next is because of construction and demolition. So during construction and demolition, what happens? A lot of dust is released, and that dust will contain cement and it will contain paint. So when that dust particles enter into the atmosphere, it can also cause air pollution. So therefore, construction and demolition work can also cause air pollution. Next is agricultural activities. So how can agricultural activities cause air pollution? One of the main reason is the slash and burn agriculture. There is a method called as slash and burn agriculture. So this slash and burn agriculture was actually banned in Punjab, Haryana regions and all that, because the government thought that was also one of the reasons for the pollution in Delhi. So what they do in slash and burn agriculture is that one time they'll grow a crop. So next year they have to clear the field, right? So whatever unwanted weeds are left out, whatever unwanted crops are left out in the field, instead of just digging them and removing them manually, what the farmers do is they'll just set it to fire and they will burn it. So that burning also, because in that field they would have added some manures, chemical fertilizers and all that, right? So along with that, those will also get burned, and the smoke that escapes into the atmosphere, it can cause pollution to a major extent. And not just that, when we use insecticides and all that, it spreads in the field in the form of a spray, right? During its spread, it can escape into the atmosphere also, causing air pollution. So that is how agricultural activities can also cause air pollution. Next is because of mining operations. So how mining operation? One thing is, because of mining operation, a large number of drillers and all that are used, wherein when they are mining, a large number of dust particles escapes into the atmosphere, and not just that, that dust particle will contain a lot of heavy metals which can escape into the atmosphere and cause air pollution. And not just that, after the mining operation is done, during the melting of the mineral, whatever they have got, at that time also a large amount of smoke is liberated. So that also escapes into the atmosphere and it can cause air pollution. So these are the different causes for air pollution. So all these can come for either 10 marks or for 4 marks, wherein you can give side headings and you can explain it so that it will easily fetch you marks. So next, talking about effects of air pollution. So air pollution can cause a number of health problems. That is true, right? Because we are subjected to a lot of allergies and all that. Why is that? That is because of some of the particulates or the pollutants that are present in the atmosphere. So therefore, air pollution can cause a lot of health problems, especially respiratory disorders. They can cause a lot of respiratory disorders in human beings. Say for example, we have asthma, bronchitis, all that. These are the respiratory disorders which can occur because of air pollution. And next is, air pollution can cause global warming. Global warming is nothing but heating of the earth, right? Why will it get heated? Because of the increase in the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere, the earth's temperature will tend to increase, therefore increasing in the, that is earth's temperature or the temperature of the globe, therefore causing global warming. And indirectly, what global warming will do, it will start melting. When the earth's temperature increases, it will start melting the glaciers, the ice caps and all that. It will increase the flow of the rivers, therefore resulting in flooding, and that is how, like a chain, it continues. So that is one of the major effects of air pollution, that is, it causes global warming. Next is acid rain. So air pollution causes acid rain in the form of sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, which mixes with the water droplets, it will come down to the earth and it can cause destruction of buildings, monuments, it can cause threat to wildlife, it can cause a problem to the crops, the plants and so on. So that is how acid rain is also one of the major effects of air pollution. Next is effect on wildlife. Air pollution can affect the wildlife. How? Because obviously each one here is again interconnected. I told you air pollution can cause global warming, so that global warming will affect the wildlife. Air pollution can cause acid rain, that will affect the wildlife. And air pollution can also cause a lot of problem to the plants, and when the plant species decreases, what happens? Obviously it will affect the life of the wild animals as well. And air pollution causes depletion of the ozone layer, especially the chlorofluorocarbons. And not just that, you all know about styrofoam, right? So styrofoam is just like thermocol. It is used to pack foods and all that. That somewhat just like thermocol, some bowls and all that will be prepared. Some plates and all that are available. If most of you know about it. So that styrofoam actually, it is not good for the ozone layer. It's actually a banned product, but still it's circulating still today. And this particular, that is the release of the chlorofluorocarbons and the burning of styrofoam, all that can cause ozone depletion. And we all know that if ozone depletion occurs, what happens? Because ozone layer is very, very important, right? Because of this ozone layer, we are capable of surviving in this planet. Otherwise, what happens? High UV radiations from the sun will enter into the earth and it can cause a lot of disorders. It can damage the eyes, it can damage the skin, it can cause various cancers, especially skin cancers and all that. It can alter the melanin pigment in the body. A lot of problems will start to occur if depletion of the ozone layer occurs. So therefore, air pollution has to be curbed if the ozone layer should be protected. And we all have heard during the corona times, right? Scientists had told that whatever hole was formed in the ozone layer, that has reduced, the size of the holes reduced. Why? Because during corona there was no use of vehicles, all the industries were shut down for almost 1.5 to 2 years, right? So that is a time when the environment replenished itself. So we have to thank corona in another way because of this particular reason also. So therefore, ozone layer is very, very important. If air pollution is not brought under control, it can cause depletion or it can cause widening of the hole that is already there in the ozone layer. Next is, it can cause smog and soot. So this is smog is one of the common problems that are faced in Japan. So Japan, the area of Japan, it is a very small country with high population, and they have a lot of industries, transportation and all that there, and every year they have this problem of smog. So what is smog? Smog is nothing but, it is smoke plus fog. So the smoke plus fog actually will cause a lot of respiratory disorders. Not just that, it will hinder the daily activities of the people because it looks just like, first of all, if there is fog, we cannot go from one place to another. It is difficult because we cannot see the road itself properly. Now imagine fog along with smoke, it will be even more problematic, which will hinder the daily activities of the people, and not just that, it will cause a lot of respiratory disorders as well. And also soot. So soot is nothing but, that is the brown powdery thing that comes out when burning fossil fuels and all that. That can also escape into the atmosphere and can cause a lot of respiratory disorders and allergies in human beings. So these are the different effects of air pollution. Next, talking about the control of air pollution. So the best control of air pollution is, we cannot stop the working of industries, right? Because if any product has to be manufactured that is needed for the human daily needs, then industries should be set up. So we cannot avoid industries. So when industries cannot be avoided, obviously the release of smoke or toxic smoke to the environment can't be avoided. So what can we do? Instead of shutting down the industries, there is something that we can do. So what is that is, they use electrostatic precipitators. So what they do with electrostatic precipitators? So electrostatic precipitator is an instrument which is fitted to the chimneys, that in industries, whatever chimneys are there for the smoke to escape, there they will fit it, and that electrostatic precipitator will actually trap all the dust particles, the toxic chemicals that are there. It will purify the air to a larger extent, and then it will release the air to the atmosphere. So once the air passes through the electrostatic precipitator and it enters into the atmosphere, it will contain very, very minimal toxic chemicals. I'm not saying it will be completely free of chemicals, but it is better. Rather than having more amount of chemicals, somewhat having only less amount of chemical toxicity when it is released to the atmosphere is better. So that is a function of the electrostatic precipitator. So One of the ways to control air pollution is industries should use electrostatic precipitators in their chimneys. Next is vehicles. Again here, we cannot go back to the olden eras wherein people used to walk. It is not possible because nowadays the life is quite busy, wherein we need to reach everywhere in time, we need to work, we need to earn, and the world is very, very fast, right? So here vehicles cannot be avoided. So how can we prevent air pollution without or control air pollution without avoiding vehicles? Again here also in vehicles, catalytic converters are used. So catalytic converters are usually used in the exhaust of the vehicles, wherein these also, they will not allow the toxic smoke to pass. It will purify the smoke and then it will release it into the atmosphere. But one problem with catalytic converter is it can be only used in vehicles which are using unleaded petrol, because if lead is there in the petrol and all the petroleum product will contain lead. So therefore use of unleaded petrol vehicles should be designed, and in that engines only we can use this catalytic converter. So that is one of the drawback. Otherwise, if unleaded petrol vehicles are manufactured, then the use of catalytic converter is not a problem. So that is one of the drawback of this. Otherwise, catalytic converters is one of the best option for using in vehicles so that we can prevent the air pollution. Next is by changing raw materials used in industries. So there might be some raw materials that are used in industry which during the refining process or which during the manufacturing process can release a lot of toxic substances. So why not we find an alternative for these raw materials so that we use an alternative material which actually releases very less toxic materials to the environment, therefore preventing or controlling air pollution. So that is one of the, so instead of using conventional energy sources, it is better to switch to non-conventional sources of energy. So that is what it means. And next is by maintenance of vehicles. Okay. We are not able to afford catalytic converters because maybe the engine that uses unleaded petrol might be costly. If all that is a problem, each of the human being who is having a vehicle at his or her house can contribute in controlling air pollution. How can you contribute? By timely checking of the vehicles. Not that checking the vehicles once in a year and just leaving the engine as such. So that, because what happens if you don't keep the vehicle in a good condition, then it will release a lot of toxic chemicals to the atmosphere. But if every year if you maintain it properly, then the amount of toxicity that is being released to the atmosphere will be reduced. So therefore, by maintenance of vehicles and roads and efficient transport system also, the air pollution can be controlled. Next, by reduction of garbage burning and shifting cultivation area. So here, shifting cultivation area means instead of going for slash and burn agriculture, why can't they go in for any other cultural practices in such a way that it doesn't cause pollution to the environment? What they can do is they can uproot the plants instead of burning it, and that uprooted plant only they can make it into a manure and use it in the field, right? So that is how various methods can be followed. And talking about garbage burning can also be reduced to maximum recycling has to be done. If there is no procedure for recycling, at least let them try to bring a ban on that particular material. So like that, the garbage burning can be reduced, therefore controlling air pollution. Next is by afforestation. So what is afforestation? Growing trees. Because trees are one of the best pollution control agents, because they make use of the carbon dioxide and they release oxygen. So therefore, more number of trees means more number of absorption of carbon dioxide and more release of oxygen, therefore keeping the air clean. So that is why even nowadays we get plants also, small garden plants are also available, which are mainly meant to purify the air. So every household, if they have such plants in their garden, or even in the small plot that they have, at least 2 or 3 pots, maybe together in unity we can control air pollution to some extent. And next important, when all the other things doesn't work, when people are not at all bothered, what for me, the whole world is going in one direction, even I'll do the same thing. If that is the case, then strict laws has to be brought wherein proper fine should be put. So you don't have an emission test done, your vehicle doesn't fit the standards according to the Bharat emission standards or the European standards and all that, or the Euro emission standards and all that, strict laws has to be made. Let them increase the fine so that people will be scared enough to keep their vehicles in good conditions and all that. And also setting standards and norms to check the air pollution and therefore to ensure the quality of the air. So like how they keep some instrument is kept in cities and all that, which will keep monitoring the air pollution. So what it does is it monitors the air pollution, and if it goes beyond the limiting value, what they will do is they will try to bring some, say for example in Delhi and all, what they did was single person traveling in a vehicle was banned. They preferred carpooling, and sometimes even they stopped even carpooling, and they said that everyone should take public transport. So like that, and industries had to work only for so much period. The shift in the industries were changed. So all that different measures they had taken. So if such laws, or say for example chimneys in factories, if it has to be of this height, then it has to be of that height only, not an inch lesser than that. So such strict laws has to be made, and if such strict laws and strict standards are set up, then obviously people will not have any option but to follow it, and therefore automatically air pollution will be brought to a control. Otherwise, we ourselves, as let's try to be good citizens of the country, wherein we ourselves, let us think of curbing the air pollution by following some of the already procedures that I had told you before. So that is about air pollution. So next, talking about water pollution. So what is water pollution? Water pollution is the contamination of the water bodies such as lakes, rivers, seas, oceans, etc. because of human activities, so that it negatively affects its users. So any water that is drinking will become incapable of drinking. So that is nothing but water pollution here. So any contamination or drastic changes that occurs in the quality of the water is water pollution. So anyway, you can write the definition. So one definition I've just put here. So next, talking about the causes of water pollution. So sewage or wastewater. What is sewage? Sewage is nothing but the waste materials that comes out of the industries, and the wastewater that is there all will be dumped into the water bodies such as the lakes, oceans, rivers, etc. So therefore, sewage or wastewater is one of the major causes of water pollution. Next is because of dumping. So be it plastic, a plastic bottle, anything that is there will be just thrown into the oceans or seas, right? So because of dumping also, and all the garbages will be dumped in the ocean, because that is the easy way of doing. So that is why people do it. So that also causes water pollution. Next is because of oil spillage. So oil spillage, usually oil is extracted from the deeper ends of the oceans. So during that time also, because of some negligence or because of some technical error or something, what happens? The oil spillage can occur. And not just that, when the ships are traveling in the ocean also, because of some reason, like how the petroleum leaks out of the vehicle, just like that the oil and all can leak out of the ship, and it can cause pollution of the water. So therefore, oil spillage is also one of the causes. Next is because of acid rain. So acid rain, obviously it falls to the land, right? So acid rain can cause water pollution. It can also cause soil pollution also. So acid rain is one of the major reasons here. Next is industrial waste, then the agricultural waste. So what all chemicals like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, then we have urea. There are various chemicals, insecticides, pesticides, weedicides, all that are used by the farmers during agriculture. So all that, whenever there is a heavy rain, it will just get washed off from the agricultural field, and it will enter into the nearby streams, lakes or water bodies, therefore causing water pollution. Next is domestic waste. So domestic waste is nothing but our household waste. So household waste such as the microplastics and some of the waste materials that we clean in the house, that flows through the drain, and eventually the drain will be connected to a water body. So therefore, the domestic waste can also cause water pollution. Next is radioactive waste. So radioactive waste, there how it can cause water pollution is because of no proper construction or no proper maintenance of the radioactive sites, what happens? The radioactive waste can leach through the soil and it can reach the water body. So that is how radioactive waste can also cause water pollution. Next, talking about the effects of water pollution. So one of the effect of water pollution is destruction of biodiversity, because if water is polluted, then the aquatic food chain will get affected. I'll tell you how. So it is very easy. Say for example, there is a pond wherein a lot of phytoplanktons were growing, zooplanktons were growing, big fishes were there, aquatic birds were there, all that, right? Now, because of water pollution, what happened? The phytoplanktons died. Now, when the phytoplanktons are died, there was no food for the zooplanktons. So, when the zooplanktons died, there was no food for the fishes. Next, no food for the bigger fishes. And no bigger fishes or smaller fishes, no food for the aquatic birds. No food for the aquatic birds. Again, some of the carnivorous animals that tend to feed on the aquatic birds, such as the crocodiles and all that, for example, no food for them. So like that, it can affect the ecosystem, it can alter the ecosystem or the food chain and the food web, and overall it can cause destruction of the biodiversity. Next is, as I told you, contamination of the food chain. So how it can contaminate the food chain? So there was a chemical which was called as DDT. So this DDT was usually used in agriculture, but now it is actually a banned chemical. Why? Because it causes a lot of health issues in human beings. So that is why it is banned. And though it is banned, still people are using it as mosquito repellent. That is to spray. They are using it so that the mosquito larvae get killed. So for that they are using it. So this DDT, if it enters into the water, what happens here is, when it enters into the water, it will be very small quantity. Next, it will be eaten by the zooplanktons. The quantity will increase in the zooplankton. When the zooplanktons are eaten by the, that is aquatic birds or fishes, for example, then the DDT concentration will increase in the fishes. Next, the fishes will be eaten by the aquatic birds. The DDT concentration in the aquatic birds will increase. Likewise, the concentration of these contaminants that are there in the water tend to increase in the food chain, therefore causing a lot of deleterious effects or poisonous effects on these organisms, therefore completely contaminating the food chain. Next is lack of potable water. Means it will deplete the drinking water supply. So here, potable water means those water which can be used for household purposes, for drinking purposes and all that. If we contaminate the rivers, ponds and all that, then the fresh water will reduce, because the contamination of the fresh water, and we know that only 1% of the earth we have fresh water. Again, in that 1%, most of that goes to agriculture. Whatever is remaining is for human consumption. So imagine how much we need to protect the water, right? So therefore, the pollution causes the lack of potable water or the lack of drinking water, causing a lot of problem to the human beings. Next is, it will cause a lot of diseases, especially waterborne diseases like cholera, tuberculosis. All these waterborne diseases will start to spread if pollution increases. And not just that, we all have heard of Minimata. There was a disease called as Minimata. I don't know how many of you know about this. This actually occurred in Japan, wherein what happened was, by mistake, somehow because of the dumping of waste into the water body, mercury entered into the water body, and the mercury was by mistake eaten by the fishes. And when human beings ate those fish, it caused a lot of brain damage in them, and that disease actually occurred in Minimata in Japan. So that is why it is called as the Minimata disease. So that is how it can affect the animal life as well as the human life also. So therefore, the curbing of water pollution is very, very important. Next is, it can cause eutrophication. So what is eutrophication? Eutrophication is nothing but the dirtying of the water because of especially the agricultural waste that are entering into water. So what happens in eutrophication is that, say for example, there is an agricultural field, and near to the agricultural field there is a small river or a pond that is there. Now, whatever chemical fertilizers that will be added to the agricultural field, that will actually, when there is heavy rain, that chemical will get washed off into the nearby rivers and lakes. And there what happens, this algae, that is the aquatic plant or some of the aquatic plants that are there, they will get enough amount of minerals to grow more. So if they grow more and cover the entire lake, then the sunlight cannot penetrate into the lake. If the sunlight doesn't penetrate into the lake, then the organisms living in the lake will be affected. So, and they will start to die, they will start to decay there, completely spoiling the lake and the river, making a fresh water not capable of using, not capable of being used anymore. So, that is nothing but eutrophication. So, that is how water pollution can cause eutrophication. Next, talking about the control of water pollution. So, water pollution can be controlled by environmental education, like how now you have environmental studies, like that from the younger classes itself, this EVS or environmental studies related subject has to be kept, wherein students should be made to know the importance of the natural resources that are there on this planet and how to protect them. And also next is by sewage treatment, that is before letting any of the industrial waste into the river, it has to be treated properly. All the harmful materials, chemicals should be removed, and then it has to be let into the water, that is sewage treatment. Next is afforestation, that is by growing trees. Next is by reducing the use of chemical fertilizers, instead opting for organic farming. Next is by implementation or by bringing in strict laws by the government in order to curb water pollution. So, this is how water pollution can be controlled. So, this was about this session wherein we studied about the water pollution and the air pollution. What are the causes, what are the effects, and how to control these two pollution. In the next session, we shall continue with the pollution itself, wherein we'll talk about the causes, effects, and control of soil pollution, chemical pollution, and noise pollution. So, I hope you understood this session well. We shall meet again in the coming session with these topics. Thank you.